Hi everyone. A couple years back, my family decided to just ditch the store-bought processed bread and instead to figure out how to make it in our own kitchen. So I have been sharing the gift of sourdough all throughout the year, and a lot of our clients and our friends, some of my colleagues right here in the office have asked how to make their own sourdough bread. So I created some instructions. I've got those. I've been sending them out to people, but I've realized that there's something very tactile about making bread that it's hard to come through on the page. So what I want to walk you through today is each of those steps right here in the Thomas Cuisine kitchen. Okay, let's start by making the dough. I've got my kitchen scale here in a large mixing bowl. So stick that bowl on the scale, and to start, I've got 50 grams of my starter. It's been left out overnight. You can see it's got some nice air pockets and bubbles in there. That's really good stuff. So we're gonna take 50 grams of this and stick it right into the bowl. Let's see, that's 51 grams, so we're gonna call that good. Then I've got my 350 grams of water that I'll add. Again, just weighing that on the kitchen scale. After that, I'm adding 12 grams of sea salt. So I'm adding 12 grams, again, measuring that right there on the kitchen scale. Okay, that's 12. I now have my dough hook, or you can also just use a wooden spoon if you've got one at home. And we're gonna go ahead and mix the starter, salt, and water all together with that dough hook. This is gonna create kind of a weird soupy mixture, but that's okay. Okay, now that it's sort of mixed in, there's still gonna be clumps in there. I'll go ahead and add 500 grams of flour. You can use your preferred type of flour. I just use organic, unbleached flour that I get at Costco. So I'm going ahead and adding in 500 grams. Mix this together with the dough hook, or your hands, or a spoon, and you're gonna create a nice shaggy dough. Then I'm just gonna create a bit of a ball. Again, shaggy dough. So it's not gonna look pretty yet, and that's okay. At this point, I'll cover the bowl with plastic wrap, or my favorite way is actually a shower cap. Use a clean one. You can get these on Amazon. It makes it really easy to keep it on there. Then I'll set a timer for 15 minutes. While the dough rests, I'm gonna make some more starter. So I'll start by putting the bowl full of starter on my scale here, and I'm gonna add 35 grams of water to this. Okay, and then I'm gonna add 50 grams of flour to my existing starter. This ensures I'll have enough starter for future bread making. So again, you're gonna mix that with a spoon. It's not super pretty and it doesn't have to be. If you wanna make more starter than that, you're just gonna double what I just did. Mix it together and then call that done. It's ready to sit on the counter if you wanna use it in the next 24 hours. If not, you can put it back in the fridge and pull it out when you need it. After the dough's rested for about 15 minutes, you can leave it a little longer if you want. It's time to do the first turning of the dough. We're actually gonna do this 3 different times. So I'm gonna get a little water on my hands, and then I'll pull the dough up from the edges and then stick it in the center of that dough. So pulling it up, sticking it in the center. I'll go around twice, and that's the turning of the dough. It's not gonna look great this first time. It gets a lot smoother with each additional turn that you do. This is just adding tension and shape to the dough. Okay, I'm gonna cover it again, and I'm leaving it out for another 15 minutes, and then I'm gonna do the same thing again. Okay, I've now done the turning of the dough twice. This is now the third and final turn. So with each turning of this dough, it's getting a lot smoother. You should notice a very different texture on that last turning. A lot less shaggy than it was at the start. So again, just going around in a circle twice and tucking the outer edges into the center. I'll cover the dough and leave it to rise at room temperature, right around 70 to 74 degrees. And I'm gonna leave it out for about 8 to 12 hours. We're gonna try to get this to rise about 50 to 70% bigger. 8 to 12 hours later. So after the dough is sat out overnight to rise, you can see it's gotten bigger. So we have some nice big dough here. I'm gonna sprinkle flour on the counter and scoop the dough out of the bowl. You can see it's a very relaxed dough. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the pieces from the side into the middle just to make it a little bit more of a round. And then we're gonna let that bench rest for a few minutes. Now it's time to shape the dough. So I'm gonna make this into an oval in this banton. In order to do that, I'll wanna add some tension to the dough. I'll start by pulling it to the side and across. I'll do the same thing on the other side. Pull it across. From the top, I'm going to take a corner and bring it down to the opposite corner. Then I'll bring the other corner down, and then I'm just going to roll it. There's a lot of ways to shape dough, so this is certainly not the only way to do it. There are plenty of great videos online on how to make an oval dough. But the one thing is, any creases, you want to make sure you're pinching together so that it looks good later. Now this dough is ready to go in the Banton. You're going to cover it, and this is going to go in my fridge anywhere from 12 to 24 hours before I bake it. When it's time to bake, preheat your baking vessel at 475 degrees for 30 minutes. While that heats, place the dough on parchment paper and grab your bread lame so that you can make some marks in the dough. There's a lot of decorative ways that you can do this, but I keep it pretty simple. I do little slashes down the front and then one right up the middle, and then I do the ear on the side. So we're gonna set this off to the side and get our hot pan out of the oven. You're gonna pour a 1/3 cup of water into the base of the pan to create some steam. Then lay the parchment paper and bread dough over the water. Put the top back on, place it in the oven to bake for about 25 minutes. Again, that's at 475 degrees. After baking for 25 minutes, remove the lid of the baking pan, and you're gonna bake the bread uncovered for about 10 minutes or until the top browns nicely. So I'll go ahead and remove it from the oven. It's looking nice and crispy on the outside. This part is important. You want to be sure to let it rest on a cooling rack for at least an hour before slicing. This is going to allow the inside to develop the best texture as the moisture redistributes. When you slice in after resting, you'll find that beautiful crumb texture, which is one of the hallmarks of a fresh sourdough loaf. The combination of the airy inside and that crispy exterior makes sourdough bread really stand out. All right, we did it! We made bread! And listen, it's not always the most beautiful thing, but I promise it's nourishing, it's delicious, it's great for your gut, and I hope you and your family get to enjoy some bread this year.